Are you ready? What's my name? What's my name? Say Kareem Ali. Say Kareem Ali. You're listening to
Are you serious?
the Hip Hop Debate Show.
Okay, so hear me out.
The official podcast of Kareem Ali. In about 2 seconds, Kareem Ali will begin to speak. Yo, Kareem Ali TV. This is the Are You Serious podcast. We discuss various topics through the lens of hip hop culture. And, I'm Kareem Ali, of course. Back again. Got my man Slick Bigelow, Slankster Hughes, Thelonious Coltrane on the show today, the co-host, the ill co-host. And we got a dope show today, man. This is a discussion I just had to have because it came up, it was going off on Twitter the other day, that there was a beef between Mos Def, the mighty Mos Def, Yasinbey, and Aubrey. What's his name? Aubrey Graham? I can't remember. Drake, Drizzy Drake, champagnepapi.
His name is irrelevant.
It's irrelevant? Okay, so listen. Mos Def was asked in the interview what he thought of Drake's music was Drake hip-hop. And Mos Def said that Drake was basically a pop artist that made music that was suitable for listening to when you're walking through Target, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I wouldn't mind having some music in Target. Can you imagine the money you're getting from Target? But that always begs the question, when you talk about hip-hop as being a culture and all of the elements that hip-hop brings in, Drake, to me, I always felt like Drake was more of a pop artist that happens to be rapping. Like, a lot of people don't even like hip-hop. They don't even like what hip-hop stands for or the sound, that hip-hop sound with the scratching, the DJ, the b-boying, the breakdancing, the raw emceeing. They like music where people just happen to be rapping to. Like, if you talk to a younger person that does music, you say, what do you do? They'll be like, well, I sing a little bit, rap a little bit. Usually that means they don't do either well. They like music that they're hearing on the radio that there happens to be rap to it, there happens to be rock or different elements of music all together, but it's not necessarily, what we would consider hip hop. Now today I don't want to hear from Thelonious. I don't want to hear from Slankster Hughes. I don't want to hear from Slick Bigelow. I don't want to hear from even Victor Rogers III. I want to hear from that Leviathan guy. I think
because that's exactly who is going to speak.
You have the floor, sir.
So, for people who have watched and listened to this podcast before, they're probably aware that I have had one or a few Drake tangents before. I have gone on some Aubrey Graham rants, some mainstream rap rants, as we've debated certain topics that include some comparisons to Drake or some topics where Drake may have been talked about being included in certain discussions where people are ranking things and things of that nature. I've definitely had my Drake rants. But, throughout them, I've tried to maintain, at least an aspect of tactfulness or politeness.
You have it.
I don't have any more tact, restraint, or politeness left when it comes to this. Okay, and I'll build up, but I will say, for starters, I'm glad this happened. I'm glad that Mos Def said this, because I feel like someone who represents the culture that we represent and that we are practitioners of needed to say this.
We're no longer making excuses for the bullshit. We make excuses all the time.
Exactly.
For shit that isn't that good.
And let's be clear, if people are classifying this as a beef, there's no beef involved. I would cite Mos Def's song Beef, where he breaks down the difference between what people want to call beef and what is not beef. There's no beef whatsoever. He just answered the question accurately and honestly, and it was in no way disrespectful.
He didn't say Drake was a sorry artist. He just said he didn't consider it.
Now, I
had no edge to it, no substance.
However, cannot promise that I will not be disrespectful in how I speak on this topic, because I'm quite sick of the bullshit. And for those who listen to the Luminary podcast that Mos Def does with Dave Chappelle and them and Talib, they talked about Drake recently on an episode where they talked about Drake, Kendrick, Tyler the Creator, and it may have been one other artist and they praised these particular artists for being able to carve out their own niche in today's landscape of culture and music. And they actually talked about, gave them praise, gave Drake and these other artists praise. And some of the points they made, I didn't even necessarily agree with, but they gave them flowers for what they have done, respectfully. So this is just Mos Def answering the question. And with that being said, nothing that he said wasn't true. But I will say this definitively, to quote Jean-Luc Picard himself, the line must be drawn here, this far, and no further, because I'm sick of this bullshit. I'm sick of the excuses that people make.
Tell them why you mad, son.
Talk about our own culture. Let's be clear. Drake is not a good MC. Drake is barely a hip-hop artist. What he does can hardly quantify as hip-hop music. Enough. I've had it up to here with this pseudo hip-hop, light-skinned Canadian-American fucking Irish R&B singer who barely sings. He doesn't even sing. He uses computerized technology to simulate singing. And then people want to get into it and start comparing Mos Def, aka formerly known as Mos Def, Yasinbey, to Drake as an artist.
Preposterous.
And people making comparisons like, oh, they both sing. That is not true. Drake does not sing. The difference is Mos Def can actually sing good. He actually knows how to sing. Drake couldn't carry a note if you gave him Stevie Wonder's lungs. Enough with the bullshit. And so what this really is, it seems generational in a lot of ways, but it's not just generational. It really is more than that. It is not a generational issue. It's a cultural contamination issue. And for the last time, I'm sick of it. I'm done with the bullshit of how we give our power for what qualifies as value in the culture that we created is based off of the mainstream commodification of a bunch of white and Jewish executives who sell our own culture back to us. They have taken hip-hop and commodified hip-hop, and then they have determined it based off of how much money it can be made off of it by selling it back to white people. No, we created hip-hop. We determine the standards. We determine what the value is. We determine what is quality and what is not, and what is hip-hop and what is not hip-hop. Recently, KRS-One talked about what happened with the 50th anniversary of hip-hop dedication at the Grammys. Not the Grammys, at the maybe it was the Grammys. Was it the Grammys?
It was a bunch of different stuff, but probably at the Grammys.
But the big profile one, right, at the Grammys.
Right.
And he talked about how he turned down making an appearance as a part of it because that shit is not hip-hop. The Grammys are not hip-hop. They have not represented our culture. They have commodified our culture.
He made a stand. He made a Jean-Luc Picard stand in the line. Yes.
And so it's enough. It's enough with the slave rap. They sell a slave rap, commodified bullshit, and then want to dictate what determines what is quality and what is not quality. What Mos Def stated was absolutely true. Drake is very much a pop artist, and Drake himself has embraced that. Recently on if you watch the video, the First Person Shooter where J. Cole definitively out-raps him for the whole song, he said, he compares himself to Michael Jackson. He had basically a Michael Jackson copycat statue of the big Michael Jackson statue. He had a Drake Michael Jackson statue in the video. It was like, look, I'm doing Michael Jackson shit. So then do your Michael Jackson shit. But don't sit here and try to act like, oh, you're
and also,
hip-hop artist.
Before you go further, 1 second.
We don't compare Michael Jackson to John Coltrane. It's not the same fucking thing.
I still get offended when anybody's compared to Michael Jackson. The difference between Michael Jackson and Drake. Michael Jackson has a much superior level of talent.
For himself. Yes. Like he's even leaning into that. There's
a different level of talent there. Drake has, I'll give Drake the credit for this as a pop artist. When you can make popular music that's successful fiscally over and over again, that is a talent. But that talent doesn't equate to hip hop, which has always been the anti-establishment. It's just not the same thing. he has talent in his lane for what he does. He can make music that people find popular, that they enjoy. That's fine. But I wouldn't call it him being a high-level hip-hop artist. I just wouldn't say that. To the points that you made.
It is what he does at this point is a hip-hop offshoot at best. But to
he's
rapping,
like, he's rapping,
this,
but it's not.
This is hip-hop. Like this is definitively hip-hop. Okay, what else would be given a pass to be this? And so that's why when we have these debates on the show about, best MCs of their generation, and people often bring up Drake, I'm like, he doesn't qualify. He doesn't actually qualify. And the generation
show about that.
And let's look at the numbers beyond the numbers. Let's look at the actual cultural contribution. 50 years from now, people will not be talking about Drake music. When we have the next 50 years of hip-hop commemoration down the line, when we get to 75 and we get to 100, they're not going to be talking about Drake's music.
People actually consider him the greatest artist in the world. I've heard plenty of times, athletes, different people, younger people, people even in our age range, consider him the absolute best. And it boggles my mind.
The question is, at what? At what? I think we're having a conversation about jazz. We're not going to say Michael Jackson's the best at jazz, but we might say Michael Jackson is the best at making pop music. It's the same thing. We're not going to compare John Coltrane with Michael Jackson. But so why are we comparing Mos Def with Drake? You know whose music we will be talking about 50 years from now when it talks about, and when it comes to the contribution of hip hop, we'll be talking about Yasinbey. We'll be talking about Black Star. We'll be talking about Reflection Eternal. We'll be talking about Mos Def. We will not be discussing champagnepapi 50 years from now.
I think that people are basing it on status and popularity and the output of records that he puts out, but I think that many of those records are quality. It's just a quantity of stuff to keep.
When do we include MC Hammer in the GOAT conversation?
We don't.
When do we include Master P in the GOAT conversation?
We don't.
They sold tons of records. And see, that's to me, that's at the core of the issue, is that we allow the commodification of the culture and how much money white companies and white and Jewish executives can make off of pimping our own culture back to us. We allow that to determine what dictates what is quality culture. I don't care if you made $1 billion if you don't have 1 billion bars to back it up. That does not determine what is best in the culture. That was never the barometer, but now all of a sudden we're changing the goalpost to say that how much money you make off the commodification of the culture equals what is best in the actual quality content of the art and the craft of the culture. And that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous when we get into these conversations and we say, oh, we're being the old men on the lawn, or we're being cultural purists, we're being hip-hop snobs and all of this. No, we're actually stating, we're trying to defend the actual culture that was created, because at this point, when it comes to mainstream hip-hop, we're at the point where the commodification of the culture has now superseded the actual culture itself, and that is ridiculous.
I feel like we've been at that point for almost 20 years now. But
it's almost like mainstream rap, slave rap music is a different genre from actual hip hop music.
Most people don't seem to value the culture. Most people don't value the culture. They don't value talent, and artistry, and music. You got the broken throat whisperers,
or a
sleepy music. They don't. They don't. They don't value lyricism. They don't value talent. They don't value substance. This is another thing that I want to say. I think that the reason, and I'm not sure that the reason that Mos Def probably said this in the interview and wasn't politically correct, was a little salty, is because Drake had a post, or perhaps, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I seen the post on his Twitter account. He wanted someone to review his poetry book, but he took a shot and said that, hey, but not the king of the Mos Def fans to do it. And I feel like that's probably why Mos was upset. And this annoys me. This annoys me because why are conscious artists that are for the liberation of Black people, why are they always the butt of a joke? Or like, oh God, you're gonna rap a dictionary to me, son? Come on. Why is talent disrespected? And what is less than being talented, articulate, and lyrically sound, why is that presented at a higher level than people who actually take the time to craft art?
We've adopted the perspective of the oppressor. and what they have reflected upon us about ourselves, we've deemed it to be true, and we live it every day. So something that is intellectually sound, something that is talent and artistically on point, is looked at as something that to be made fun of. Why? Because we know why. Because these record companies were infiltrated by government agents in the early 90s, and they said we need to dumb this music down because it is going to cause Black people to have a cultural awakening. Because if they have a cultural awakening, they won't want to remain oppressed by us anymore.
And let me say this: I'm disgusted by this point. Are we so brainwashed as a people that we prefer anything that is negative or anything that contributes to our destruction over what contributes to our liberation or elevation mentally and spiritually? Like,
when it comes to the consumption of mainstream media, we absolutely are.
At what point do we have any type of accountability for ourselves as fans, as a people, as a culture, to say enough is enough and understand that there are levels to things critically? There are levels to things as far as what's going to nourish us and versus what's going to destroy us. Why do we prefer entertainment that, you know what I'm saying, that contributes to our destruction? I just don't.
We have to first be aware that accountability is required and have to be aware of what we're to be holding accountable. But if we don't have any actual foundational understanding of what the culture actually is and represents as it was founded by us versus getting it sold back to us as a commodified version, a repackaged version of it, with all the nutrients sucked from it, then how are we even going to be aware of what we should be accountable for?
How often have you heard someone say, "Oh, he talking that positive shit. Ain't nobody trying to hear that." I want the bull.
And I mean,
my friends be like, I want the
bullshit.
I want to hear the bullshit.
About the poetry book. I mean, I can tell you from someone who is a part of the national poetry community and someone who is a practitioner of that as well at an extremely high level, the poetry community scoffed at that book. Like, it became just a joke. Like poets from all over the country were posting posts like as memes with excerpts from the book as a joke. Like, it wasn't even deemed about. It wasn't even looked at as serious. Like, it was looked at as like, oh, he's basically trolling the world by actually trying to consider himself a poet. Like, that is how low the level of his writing is looked at by people who actually are high quality writers, especially in the poetry world. Like, it was looked at as a joke. So for him to say like, oh, I want some people to review the poetry book who aren't the Mos Def, blah 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 blah. He knows the people who actually know
they have it. So in the poetry, so let me stop.
Culture and the work.
In the poetry world,
he knows that it's not quality, so he doesn't want people who know anything about it to actually review it.
So in the poetry world, there's still a standard of excellence when it comes to wordplay, and lyricism. In the poetry
world, you have to stand on your words. You can't use, you can't use practice. You can't use music you can't use music and savvy production to cover up the fact that your words aren't strong. You can't. So you have to stand on your words alone in most of the cases.
What do you think? What do you think about Drake's response? He responded with a old Method Man clip, which to me further invalidated his claim. Because the majority of what Method Man said, Drake didn't fit into any other categories what Method Man described as hip hop.
Exactly.
Now, he talked about party music, so there may be some of the party elements, perhaps, but I still don't even think some of that's done on a high level. He's been party. If you're in the club and stuff, he makes music that fits that scenery, that demographic, that setting.
Irrelevant. I mean, how far are we going to stretch the definition at this point? Is Kesha hip hop? Is Lady Gaga hip hop? Like, people are doing music to hip hop influence sonic creations, beats and drums and production. People are doing music over those hip hop influenced sounds. At what point are they just going to incorporate everything that is influenced by hip hop as hip hop? There's a reason that the culture was defined at its very inception with the elements as defined foundational aspects and components of hip hop. There's a reason for that. So you can't. The same conversations happen with jazz, and that's why I say jazz has influenced almost every aspect of Black music to come after it. So we're not going to say Rick James is the same as Miles Davis.
So, but a lot of hip hop though does have an influence on a lot of the music for the last 30 years. Like, even New Edition said that we're hip hop, pop, and jazz with a soul feel or swing to it, right? But they're not hip hop artists, but they're influenced by hip hop. the music has a hip hop edge to it. Would you agree with that? But
Exactly.
it's still pop music.
But if you define it, because when he does just get to the bare bones of that question and the answer, you consider Drake hip hop. It's pop that has a hip hop aspect to it. Basically, is what he said.
So he's
what about that is false? What about that is disrespectful? What about that insinuates beef? You know, I'm still glad this happened, because this conversation needs to happen. And those of us who have already been having these conversations, this highlights it in a way where more people are paying attention to discussion and actually engaging in it. But like, as far as where I stand, bullshit.
This is the thing, though. I don't. Okay, so I'm gonna say this. I don't think Drake is incapable, or I don't think he was incapable. You're only as good as you are at the moment. When he first came out, I considered him a hip hop artist, but he chose a lane.
He was a very high quality hip hop.
He was a high quality hip hop, but he chose a lane. He chose a lane where he would get the most respect and success and accolades that took him to the level that he is now, from a financial standpoint, from a successful standpoint, as far as when it comes to the charts. And he chose that, so he has to stand on that. He can't now go back and be mad that people don't consider him a high-level hip-hop artist, because he chose not to be. He chose which direction he was going to go with his music. All of us artists, when you sit down to make a song, you know this is pure hip-hop. Lyrical Leviathan is about to get off. I'm giving you straight bars the whole time. I'm putting monkey nuts on the table. You didn't say, I'm going to go out here and reach out to the ladies to make some stuff that they can enjoy and shake their ass to. Everyone has an intention when they go to make a song. And his intentions was that lane. So why be angry and upset about it now that people don't regard him as such? You know what I'm saying?
Kareem Ali. Let's really get down to what this is really about. Okay? Because people are going to say, you know, this is Mos Def hating, this is Mos Def being some kind of a way. People are going to cite the commercial success as a barometer for quality and for what should be valued. But let's really talk about what this is really about. This is no different than what Cat Williams pointed out and what he talked about recently. There is God's side and there are the devils. And when I say the devils, I'm not talking about some mythical trickster. I'm talking about the people who do the devil's work. And those are the people who control the industries and entertainment. And those are the people who control the commodification of hip hop music. Those are the people who Drake is loyal to, and those are the people he makes the music for, and those are the people who dictate the way his artistry has developed.
He raps for corporate interests.
Represents the other side.
Yeah.
Why was Mos Def ostracized from the mainstream? Why did he step out of the mainstream? Why was he not even able to come back in the country for a long time? Because he took a stand against the devils. He took a stand against the practices that were happening in Guantanamo Bay. He took a stand against the terrorism that is perpetuated by Americans and their allies around the country. And that is what really is going on when we talk about these kind of conversations. We talk about artists like Drake, who have literally sold their rights to their soul matrix to individuals who commodify the culture and then sell and then take your soul. He has literally given away his soul matrix. We're talking about people who are above the people who control the material gain of the culture, or the entities who control how your material gain works in the physical world. We're talking about someone who sold their soul matrix to the likes of Baphomet and Rain Man. Oh no, Leviathan, you're getting too deep for us. All I'll say is there's the God side and there are the devils who control what happens in the physical world. Yasinbey represents one side. Aubrey Graham represents the other side. That's the deeper conversation people don't want to have. Because those are the same forces who have taken a hold of the divine creation that is the culture of hip-hop and has weaponized it against the people who created it. That's what we've been dealing with for the last several decades.
Ever since the early 90s, I would say. We start to see the clear switch. You know, the clear switch of what was going on from a commercial standpoint, hip hop, and how they started to weed out the elements of the culture, and they start firing them. Yeah,
weaponizes culture. They weaponize spirituality. They weaponize sexuality. They weaponize science and technology. They weaponize everything that we create and then turn it back on us. All we're seeing is Drake is just another small representation of that weaponization.
And then you wore
mainstream culture gets perpetuated
right.
using our own culture and artistic creations against us intellectually.
And they re-up every time we come out with something. They did it with jazz. They did it with all the music that we created over the years. And they reward the artists that are going to represent or that are in line with their agenda. That's why you have the Sexy Reds and the people like that present this image about Black people or this image of negativity, not even hating on a particular artist, but they reward those particular artists and prop them up in front of us. And they don't give any screen time to the artists that are for our liberation. They do that on purpose for all the reasons that you said.
And I mean, come on, look at it. Like the proof is right in front of our faces. Just, I mean, people can do the work on their own if they want to, but just look at his logo. Look at his logo with the owl.
Yeah.
Come on now. We know what's really
going on. And
on.
People were going off trying to say who was actually a better artist. I feel like
that's the part that I just have absolutely no patience for.
It's the criteria that you use for judging. If you're judging it based on output pop accolades, that really has nothing to do with hip hop. Who's a better hip hop artist?
But if you're talking about quality content, give me one Drake song that stands up against Umi Says.
Even on the same
even the same kind of subject matter.
At the same time,
a Drake song talking about women that stands up against Miss
Drake has never contributed anything that has any level of substance. Mos Def is pure substance, and I'll end it like this for the most part. When you look at it, Drake doesn't have any classic albums. He has singles that are popular, that were big singles, but Mos Def has at least Black on Both Sides, which is one of the greatest classic albums in hip hop history, in my opinion. I think it came out in 99, 2000.
If you include the first Black Star album with the group, that's
also a classic.
Another classic.
They have classic songs too, but Black on Both Sides was a classic hip hop album, top to bottom, when album making made sense, when album making was important to people. People just make songs for streaming.
Like that Static is another slept on as it was another classic.
It's good. I don't know if it's a classic. We can argue about that, but it was a great album for sure.
Compared to any Champagne.
I like the new day. Well, compared to Champagnepapi, Drake doesn't have any albums that I can consider classic. I feel like they just got worse and worse the entire time. Every time he came out.
Look, not only
the quality of it slipped.
Not only am I glad that Yasinbey pointed out these very obvious facts about Aubrey Graham's music. I'm also, I have to big up Yasinbey for consistently being someone who goes to bat for the culture and the culture first. Like if you the interview he did recently on Talib's show, which is very popular, a lot of the things he talked about when the last Black Star album came out last year, about how we have to, he hinted at this when he said the thing recently in the interview about Drake, in that, at what point does it become enough with the commodification? At what point does the artistry represent something more than just how you sell it or how you can sell it? And he said what he said about, is it just banging the pom-poms for whatever corporate industry wants to attach itself to your talent? And I remember years ago, he did something that was really amazing. Was he highlighted Doom as an MC.
Yes.
And he highlighted specific MF Doom lyrics, and he stated, I put up $1 million, in a battle, Doom versus Lil Wayne. Because there's a difference. There is a difference between the high level cultural output that represents the best of hip hop and that is not that. And in closing, I'll say, I know what people are going to say. I know what they're going to say for the people who will listen to and watch this. They will say, well, what the fuck are y'all talking about? What do y'all know? Who the fuck is Kareem Ali and Lyrical Leviathan? What makes y'all experts on it? But we are practitioners of this culture, regardless of how widely it is consumed or commodified by the mainstream industry. We are not only practitioners of this for a very long time, we are very high level and very skilled practitioners of this. Cassette tech mastery, direct steps, your chick's hips, adept to the majesty, dastardly, verbally eviscerate, pen strokes penetrate, quotes disintegrate the breaks, demonstrate the way the breaks obliterates, triples my mental nimble on instrumentals, not coincidental, we influential beat eaters, is glare near speaker, spit rare ether. Drake can't do that. Drake doesn't do that. I can do that. For anybody who says, "Oh, who are you? Who are you?" You know, I am someone who is very good at this. Is who I am. I am someone who have competed and won at high levels with my words on a national and international level. So for anybody who's like, "Shut the fuck up," who the fuck are you, light-skinned guy with the beard and the glasses? Come rap against me. Come fucking rap against me. I will fucking obliterate you. I'm done with this bullshit. I'm tired of the bullshit. We represent real hip hop. To quote KRS-One, we represent real hip hop. That other shit, get it the fuck out of here.
Man, we almost get into like that. I mean,
done with these fucking conversations.
One thing about this Mos Def discourse, it just proves that sometimes, I won't say it proves, but it makes a lot of artists feel like rapping on this level doesn't seem to be worth it. That's why a lot of legends have just gone quiet. They don't even speak about it no more. I'm not even sure the audience of the day deserves the craftsmanship it takes to write these intricate and intelligent, cohesive rhymes with substance. I don't know if they deserve it because they don't even appreciate the levels that you have to do. I get so tired of how long it takes to really come up with these intricate levels of rhyme and songs only for somebody to say, "Man, that shit deep, man. I ain't really feeling it like that." They really want to hear the bullshit. I mean, it bothers me. What you just did, extremely high level of rhyme, sir. Extremely high level of rhyme.
Rushmore of metaphors, I'm killing them.
There you go.
Because the bars rock hard like stones thrown by Palestinians. Penicillin in his pen. Microphone vengeance when the record spins. Elimination. You all sound the same. Alliteration. Categorically, rhetorically. Forcing annihilation. Because when it comes to lyrical domination, I'll oppress rappers historically like white nations do entire populations. Rhyming in my highest stages. Y'all get played. Violas, harmonicas. Living in a city where drugs reign prominent. So niggas stay on the rock for years with no release. J Electronica. Do that, or get the fuck out my face.
Real artists make music for art and sport, not for the charts and for the talk. And that's what my man Lavero provided to show us right there today, that display. Don't expect me to go after that. I'm not gonna. I feel like Jay-Z going after DMX. I'm not gonna go after that.
I'm annoyed with the discussion. I'm annoyed with basically the perspective that those who did not create the culture and who do not create the culture get to commodify and say what is value within the culture.
Everything you said, sir. Everything you said, I agree with. And if it was a Mos Def versus Drake doesn't even rank. He's not even anywhere near on the level of Mighty Motion. Yasinbey is elevated to a much higher status when it comes to talent, lyricism, and artistry. So, I mean, anyone who has anything to say about that, I'm not sure they really know what they're talking about.
You argue two different things. Keep it down to the bare bones, you know.
We're arguing two different things. I mean,
it's a famous scene in Game of Thrones where the clergy member is discussing how the temple has been built up over the ages, and there's all of these columns and fancy architecture, but there's this one altar in the middle of the cathedral that has been there since the very beginning and has never changed and remains true. And you strip everything else away, and he says, "This is what remains true. What is true to the core." Put Drake on a stage, take away the beat, just his words. What great MC can he hold his own against? Not a single
great MC. I would say Vanilla Ice and Hammer. He fits into that.
Not a single one.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Let alone Yasinbey, formerly known as Mos Def.
Positive K. No.
I said great MC.
I've got nothing. But that's it. Kareem Ali TV, man. Are You Serious podcast. Thank you today for coming on, bro. We had to have this conversation. It was important for the culture, for people to really understand, and for people that listen to this to really know what hip hop is really about and what hip hop is not about. And you define that perfectly. I want to give you this platform and the stage to be able to say what you need to say. You said it exquisitely beyond what I even could have done myself. I wanted to say more, but you took over the show and it had to be done. It had to be done. Not offended about it at all.
Extremely serious. When it comes to hip hop.
Are You Serious? Extremely serious. Are You Serious podcast. Kareem Ali TV. All right, bro.
So yeah, I mean, I know a lot of that was very rant heavy. But yeah, I'm just like, I just gotta take the glove.
So I have to stand here today as what I was when I was born. A black man.
Your racism bounces off me, I'm bulletproof. Your prejudice gets deflected, I'm bulletproof. Your hatred can't penetrate me, I'm bulletproof. Our minds can't be shackled no more, nah, we know the truth. Yeah, from the spot that Malcolm stood, looking out through the window, I'm looking out over my...